Hi, I'm Janine Firpo. In this demo, I'm going to show you a tool that I really like that helps you assess what is in the stock funds that you own. It allows you to look at the funds across 7 different values that you may hold. Things like, is it fossil free? Does it have gender diversity? And so on. The name of the tool is As You Sow, and I'm going to show that to you in a minute. But before I do, I just wanted to say that this is only one of several tools that are available for you to do this type of analysis. And we talk about other tools in both the book as well as on our companion website, activateyourmoney.net. Today, we're going to look at As You Sow. So the full title of the tool is As You Sow, Invest Your Values. And you can just enter that into your favorite browser. You'll see that it pops up right away for me because I obviously use this tool a lot. And here it is right at the top of the heap. We'll just click on that. And when we do, we get to this particular screen. And what you see here are the lenses through which this particular tool assesses your stock funds. I already mentioned fossil free and gender equality, but this also can look at gun free, deforestation free, weapon free, tobacco free, and prison free. So these are the 7 lenses through which As You Sow assesses its stock funds. We're going to go ahead and start by clicking on the fossil free funds. And you can see in this screen that you have a couple of choices. Either you can click here and look at all the top scoring funds, or you could actually enter the name of a particular fund that you have or use its stock ticker here. And as a reminder, the ticker is simply usually a 5-letter acronym for stock funds. That is a shorthand to name that fund. And the stock fund that we're going to start with is called the Vanguard Total Stock Market Index. It's a very well-known and commonly referenced fund because it has a very low expense rate and it holds a broad part of the market. It's actually a large cap blend fund, which you will know what that meant if you read chapter 7 in the book. Okay, so I happen to know that the ticker for this is VTSAX. So we're going to go ahead and put that in the search tool, and there it is, the Vanguard Total Stock Market Index, Admiral. And what you can see right away is that this particular fund does not do very well in terms of a grade. As You Sow will grade the funds from A to F, and in this particular case, in terms of fossil fuel, this gets a D. And the reason is because it actually holds quite a few companies in the fossil fuel industry. And we can see what those are over here on the right side of the page. There are actually 39 investments, stocks, that are owners of carbon reserves. There are 14 stocks in the coal industry, 133 in the oil industry, and so on. And if you click on one of these, you can actually see the names of the stocks that are being held. All right. If we continue to scroll down and we look over to the left side, this is some very important information. Actually, let me scroll up. What this is telling us is that there is a fossil fuel exposure of 5.81%, or almost 6% of the fund is in fossil fuels. And that amounts to $62 billion worth of assets that are invested in this industry. So if you want to be fossil free, this may not be the best fund for you. Now, if you can continue to scroll down, you will see here some of the major companies that this particular fund is invested in, more details on what those holdings are. You could actually look at all 200 holdings that make up that $62 billion and see exactly what this fund holds that's in the fossil fuel industry. If you continue to scroll down, what you will find, and I think this is a great part of this tool, is you will actually see how this fund is scored across all the other value lenses that As You Sow tracks. So it doesn't really matter which lens you enter. We could have entered on gender equality and we would have seen some different data there, but we could have also seen how a particular fund ranks across all of these. And we can see that this particular fund doesn't do great. I mean, it has 1 F in terms of the prison industrial complex. It has 3 Ds, a couple C's, and a B. So it is not a great performer in terms of many of the values that some of us may hold dear. We can continue to scroll down, and what we see here is really interesting. We see how this particular fund measures up against a particular index, in this case, the S&P 500, and we can look at how it measures up on 1 year, 3 year, 5 year, and 10-year criteria. Now, if we scroll down even a little farther, we can get a summary view of this, and I particularly like this view, and you can see how this particular fund did in terms of the S&P 500 over a 1, 3, 5, and 7-year period. Now, what's interesting is I happen to know that the index that is generally used for this fund, because it is as I said, is a large cap blend, and it holds a significant part of the market. The Russell 1000 is the benchmark that's most commonly used with VTXAX. And you can see that other than the 1 year period, they pretty much mapped very, very closely with a little bit of difference, which is essentially the goal of an index fund like the Vanguard Total Stock Market Index. Its goal is to track the market index. So it did pretty well in that regard. So you can get a lot of information about the fund just from looking at this particular tool, which is great. But what we're going to do now is we're going to go back up to the top. I'm going to move myself over a little bit here, and we're going to go to the menu. We're going to go to the search function, and we are going to put in another ticker, which is another Vanguard stock fund that I'm familiar with. It's called ESGB. This is actually an ETF, an exchange traded fund, and we're going to go ahead and click on that. And we can already see that this particular fund is doing better in terms of its grade. It has a B grade, whereas we were seeing before that VTXAX held 14 companies in the coal industry. This one only has 1. The prior fund had 133 companies in the oil and gas. This one has only 3. So although it's not perfect, it's a lot better. And if you remember from earlier, the fossil fuel exposure of VTSAX was almost 6%. Here it's less than 1%. And the total amount invested in VTXAX was $62 billion with a B, whereas here it's only 24 million. So better, not perfect. And again, we can continue to scroll down and see some of the kinds of companies that this is invested in that may go against that fossil-free value. Scrolling down even farther, we get the entire grading of this particular fund. Now, it's way better. There are no Ds, there's no Fs. We're looking at basically a portfolio of B and C ratings. Not perfect, right? But I think that this is where things are really important to recognize that we're not yet in a world of perfection. And sometimes perfection can be the enemy of the good. So this is obviously a fund that is much better than what we saw with VTSAX in terms of these different value lenses, but not perfect. Does not mean that you shouldn't invest in this fund or a fund like it, right? Now, if we scroll down, and I'm going to go past this and go all the way down to the bottom, again, I happen to know that this particular fund is also benchmarked against the Russell 1000. So we're going to do a like by like comparison. And what we see is that this fund actually outperformed that index by a significant amount with a 1-year track record by 4.22%. So it did better than the benchmark, and it did better than VTSAX. However, this is a relatively new fund, and so we don't see the trailing returns over the 3, 5, and 10 years. So this tool is great because it can help you learn a lot about what's in the fund and how that fund really stacks up and ranks against other funds. This is all I'm going to show you in this particular video. In the next video, I'm going to show you how you can use As You Sow to actually find funds that are more to your liking. And then I will do another video that will show you how you can then compare and rank them. Well, I really appreciate the fact that As You Sow has this kind of return information. It is not as specific as I would like, as it does not go beyond whole numbers to the decimal components of the returns, which sometimes can be really important to see. And this is only upgraded on, I believe it's a quarterly basis, whereas when I do rankings and look at different stocks that I'm trying to make personal decisions about, I prefer to see the most current data. And so I tend to use a combination of this tool and Morningstar when I'm doing assessments. And I will show you in a video exactly how I do that. But for now, I just wanted to explain to you how this tool works and how you can take a look at what is in your current portfolio. So that's it for now. I hope this was a helpful and informative video for you, and thank you for watching.